major earthquake erupted with a magnitude of 8.8, which is the largest in Japan, and recording an intensity of 7 in the Japanese scale of 0 to 7 in Miyagi Prefecture, and a tsunami wave was registered in 7 meters in Fukushima.
Major tsunami has struck northeastern Japan, sending a 4-meter wall of water inland, which is currently causing widespread devastation. Now, the tsunami that is currently underway in the northeast of the country was caused by an 8.9 magnitude earthquake, and that struck 130 kilometers off the Pacific coast.
This is the moment the quake struck. Ibaraki Airport was shaken violently. Part of the ceiling of the terminal building fell.
Just give you a sense of this whirlpool that's been created, because we've seen a wave moving forward essentially, but not very much a spinning, a whirlpool-like motion.
Yes, I mean, without knowing the details of that, it's obviously hit something or some other force of current that has created it. And again, what we're seeing time and again with these pictures is the sheer force of how what looks like a placid Pacific Ocean, almost out of a tourist brochure, going along, and there's incredible force. Then it hits the land and it goes from seawater to sludge, and we saw it in the earlier pictures there, picking up houses, picking up trucks, picking up ships, and simply flinging them around as if they were toys.
It's these terrible things that make people cherish what they have. It's these terrible things that make people, I don't know, human.
There has been a tsunami warning for all territories on the Pacific Rim, reaching all the way to Hawaii, even as far as Colombia and Peru, according to the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center.
Last Friday afternoon, minutes before the tsunami, the town's tuna fleet weren't anywhere near here. They were at anchor right out in the bay. But the damage done to the tuna fishing industry and these vessels is as nothing compared to the damage in some ways that was inflicted by the boats and the tsunami right here.
Ships capsized, dumped across the town. Many of them burnt out, at least one still smouldering.
All at once, this wave just came towards us. I've never seen anything like it.
While some towns are obliterated along this coast, here it's an entire port, an entire sector of industry simply taken out.
Jakarta, home just 72 hours ago to almost 30,000 people, has been wiped from the face of the earth. The tsunami came, destroyed everything in its path, and then took much of what it had destroyed back out to sea. The rest it left heaps and splintered. Almost nothing built by man was spared. These people lived because they were out of town as the tsunami struck, or because they got lucky in the scramble to escape, or like this family, because they happened to live on higher ground. It was a large earthquake, she told me, but where we were, we felt safe. But when I looked down, I saw the roads in town were jammed with cars, and that's why I think there were so few survivors. They have long since given up searching for survivors here. Finding the dead and preventing the spread of disease is all they're concerned with now. Minami Sanriku was one of the first to be reached, but perhaps the hardest hit of all. The town where 10,000 are still unaccounted for. Severe damage to the roads along Japan's northeastern coast mean it's very difficult to get aid to the victims of this disaster. And look at this, the force of the earthquake has flung pieces of tarmac like playing cards. Until Friday, this was one of Oshinomaki's quiet district hospitals. Now, camp beds fill the corridors. It's mainly the elderly who are suffering the most.
Thousands of bodies of earthquake and tsunami victims washed up today in northeastern Japan. The confirmed death toll was near 1,900, but there were estimates of more than 10,000 dead in the Miyagi region, hardest hit by the catastrophe. Meanwhile, survivors struggled to find food, water, and shelter as engineers labored to prevent a nuclear disaster.
We believe that there is a low possibility that a massive amount of radiation has been leaked, but similar to the time when the hydrogen explosion took place in number 1 reactor, as in the case of number 3 reactor, we can see a higher level of radiation. So therefore, there are some small number of people who still remain in the 20 kilometers radius of the nuclear power plant, but we would like to, we had already instructed these people remaining in the area to be inside buildings.
3 days after Japan was struck by its worst natural calamity in years, Japan continues to struggle to avert a nuclear disaster.
This is already one of the worst nuclear accidents in history if it stops right now. And we're dealing with multiple meltdown possibilities. At reactor number 1 and reactor number 2 at the Daiichi site, there's also concern about reactors at the Diani site. There are actually incidents at other nuclear facilities in Japan that would have been significant incidents of them by themselves, but they're caught in the wake of these major crises.
22 people tested positive for contamination, 3 of them with serious exposure. Others waited patiently as medical teams in head-to-toe protective suits used Geiger counters and handheld scanners to check for radiation. And nearly 200,000 people have been evacuated to temporary shelters.
At the Fukushima nuclear complex, radioactive smoke billowing from one reactor and a power outage at another has some Japanese calling this Japan's Chernobyl. The aging Fukushima reactor had been scheduled for retirement in just over 2 weeks' time. The blast at Unit 1 destroyed the outer container when the cooling system failed after workers released radioactive steam to ease the pressure. 4 workers were injured. Japanese officials said an electricity outage early Sunday morning at another reactor in the same complex, Unit 3, caused another emergency. Without power, the cooling system failed. Workers are trying to restore power and prevent the worst case, a meltdown.
Following the devastating earthquake and tsunami, the Shinmoe Dake volcano in southwestern Japan has erupted.
The volcano is erupting in Kyushu region of Japan, forcing the evacuation of nearby towns. Heavy clouds of smoke and ash have been pouring out of one of the 20 volcanoes in the Mount Kirishima, prompting officials to clear that area within a mile of the volcano. Volcanic ash is covering fields in nearby towns, but officials say they don't expect a full-scale eruption in the near future. Still, they warn you can never say never with a volcano.
I've said directly to the Prime Minister of Japan, Prime Minister Kan, that the United States will continue to offer any assistance we can as Japan recovers from multiple disasters.